The debate continues. Jamar Chase or Penei Sewell? For more on the debate Bengals fans have been having ahead of the 2021 NFL Draft, let's talk with Jim Mora Jr. Jim, last time we talked, obviously, it was all about Joe Burrow and, his potential. Both of these guys would help Joe Burrow just in different ways. So which side are you on here with the fifth pick? If Penei Sewell is there, which I think he will be, and if Jamar Chase is available, should the Bengals take another weapon, potentially a wide receiver one in Chase, or go with Penei Sewell to block and keep Burrow upright?
I'll tell you what, it looks like, as you go through the mocks and you read about, the people ahead of Cincinnati, it looks like they're going to have to make a decision. Now crazy things can happen this last month before the draft, but what a great position to be in, but what a difficult position to be in, because you're talking about two great players that both have an effect on your team and specifically your offense, but in very, very different ways. We know this. If you can't protect your quarterback, your offense is not going to go. It's just not. And when you've got a great, great player, or at least in my opinion, a great, great player like Joe Burrow, assuming he comes back from his knee, which I think he will, you've got to take care of him. You've got to make sure that he's got time to get the ball down the field, that he can feel a little bit of comfort in the pocket. And so that would lead you to say, well, let's take Sewell. Sewell is a great player. He's shown to be a great player. He's undoubtedly the best offensive tackle in the draft. And so the people on that side would say, well, we need this guy. We can go get a free agent, or we can get a later round pick at wide receiver. Now the con to that is Jamar Chase. He's a generational wide receiver. He's big, he's fast, he's physical, he's productive. He played at a high level at LSU. He played national championships. He's used to winning. Interesting thing about both these guys is neither of them played in 2020. So we haven't seen him play for a while. Chase is a guy that has a gigantic catch radius. So you throw the ball out there and he's going to get it. He's got great run after the catch. We've seen his dynamic ability to get into the end zone, take a short little throw and get where he wants to be, which is pay dirt at the end zone. But if you can't protect, you can't get it to him. So, well, I'll tell you what, it's a tough one. If it was me, all right. Well, let me ask you this: who would you take?
I would take Jamar Chase because of, to me, the value of the draft, where the value lies. I think they can find offensive linemen on day 2 of the draft at picks 38 and 69. I'm not finding a Jamar Chase, right? A wide receiver one that can essentially replace AJ Green and be that guy. But at the same time, I get it with Sewell. And you're right, it is a really good place to be in. But what about you? What about you if you had to take one right now?
Well, you brought up what I think is the key point, and that's the depth at offensive line in the draft. And that would lead me to where it led you, and that's Jamar Chase. Wow. When that guy gets the ball in his hands, he's dynamic. And I think that if you are struggling a little bit in protection, there are things that you can do to get your quarterback enough time that he can find the time to get the ball to Chase, and Chase can do things. If you don't have any weapons outside and you can't stretch the field by width or by depth in these times, then you're falling so far behind offensively. So I'm with you. I mean, it would just, if I was the offensive line coach in that draft room, I mean, it'd be like a dagger in the heart when they took Jamar Chase. But I think that's the right way to go. Give Joe Burrow weapons. Give him weapons and hope it, like you said, at 38, or package some things and come up. There's going to be some guys there that are going to be pretty good offensive linemen, offensive tackles, adequate guys that are going to develop into great players. So you got to go get Chase.
I'm surprised you said that. That caught me off guard. I thought you were going to say Sewell.
That's how I feel. It's like, look, the NFL is a different game today. It's not a straight drop back game anymore, right? I mean, it's movement in the pocket. It's quick throws. It's RPOs. It's getting the ball out of a quarterback's hands quickly. It's getting the ball to your playmakers in space to make those great plays. We all love a great offensive tackle, a special left tackle like Sewell that can be with your organization. You're talking about an Anthony Munoz type of guy for Cincinnati fans. It can be there forever. That's going to put a gold jacket on someday in Canton, potentially. But Chase changes the dynamics of games, and he does it right away. There's no learning curve for Jamar Chase. He's going to walk into the locker room. He's going to be the number one wide receiver. No doubt. They're going to put him at your starter. Sewell, there's a learning curve. There's a learning curve. I mean, there's some pretty nifty defensive ends out there. They're going to come after him, and they're going to work him for a while. And there'll be some frustration on game day when he gets beat for a sack. Why did we take that guy? Why didn't we get Chase? Sewell, though, is a generational talent. We can't just deny that. So is Chase. So I'm going with Chase. I'm with you. Let's go Chase. Let's go get Jamar Chase.
Great minds. I totally agree. But let me ask you this, from a coaching standpoint, when you're coaching offense in this day and age, the Bengals offensive line over the past 5 years, and it's been 5 losing seasons, they haven't been functional. It's a word I've used to describe them, because they haven't been able to function and really carry out the offense, I think, the way they wanted to with Andy Dalton for 4 years and then with Joe Burrow last year. Is it more important to have, and would you rather have as a coach, a functional offensive line or average offensive line that's just, good enough, or, in great weapons, right? Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd potentially, or flip it. Good, not great weapons, no true wide receiver one, maybe B to C plus weapons, and an elite offensive line?
I'd rather have first choice. I'd rather have a functional offensive line that works well together. You can get 5 underachievers, and if you coach them up and you do the things you need to do schematically to help them, then they become functional. And now if you've got those elite receivers, the elite playmakers on the outside, I think you've really got a chance. Unless you're committed to running the ball, 3 out of 4 plays, having an elite offensive line, I don't know how much that helps you if guys can't get open down the field. If you're dysfunctional on offensive line, that's a reflection of coaching, in my opinion, or it's a reflection of players that you've selected. That group or injuries, that group should be able to function if you've got adequate players. So you got to get the right coach in there. You can't be stubborn in your scheme. A lot of times coaches, I'm going to tell you, coaches get very stubborn. They don't bend. They try to fit players to their scheme rather than fit their scheme to the players that they have. Look, the players you have are the players you have. And in order to make them the best that they can be and function the best that they can function, then you have to adjust as a coach. So if you're not adjusting as a coach, if you're not doing the things that are necessary to help those guys overcome their deficiencies, then you're doing a poor job as a coach. And I'm not insinuating that the Bengals have done that. I'm just saying you can get 5 guys, if they work together well, they communicate well, if they're fundamentally sound, they don't have to be the best players in the NFL to give your quarterback the time to open up some holes. It's all about, outsmarting people, not making mistakes, not making mental errors, staying in position, being fundamentally sound, helping each other, communicating. It's the secondary and the offensive line, the most communication takes place amongst those 2 groups, and the most cohesion has to be there for them to function well.
Yeah, I know the coaching staff, they swapped out offensive line coaches. Jim Turner out after 2 seasons, Frank Pollack in, and I think they are
Frank's
banking
awesome.
on that. What do you know Frank?
Him. Well,
okay.
When I was coaching the 49ers, he played for us. Known Frank a long time. He's going to do a great job. He sees it from a player's eyes, and there's nothing like that.
And that's exactly at least part of my point, because the Bengals signed Riley Reif, but they didn't add a bunch of players in free agency on the offensive line. But what they did do is they brought in Frank Pollack, who I think is a plus coach. And I know the Bengals view him that way. And he was there in 2018. Then he went to the Jets after Marvin Lewis in the Bengals parted ways. But they view him as a guy who can develop and get these guys to function together. And that's my point. The Bengals, the biggest weakness coming into this offseason was offensive line. Everyone knew it. The gas station clerk down the street mentioned it to me. Everybody knows it. It doesn't take a football expert to know it. But if they can get a functional line and a star receiver versus Penei, Sewell, and another average receiver to go along with Higgins and Boyd, I just think it's the best of both worlds.
Yeah, we're taking Jamar Chase and we're pairing him up with Frank Pollack, who, as I said, he coaches from the perspective of the player. He played the position, he played it at a high level, he played, for a great organization. He was coached by a guy named Bob McKittrick, who's, now deceased, but was one of the great offensive line coaches in the history of the NFL. And Frank, he understands how to coach the player from a player's perspective. And I think he's a great addition.
I think that might be one of the biggest differences in this team. I know Joe Mixon was excited about it. You mentioned players liking him. Billy Price was excited about it. Last thing for you, Jim, and I appreciate the time. What is your overall takeaway from the Bengals free agent moves? They focused on defense, not as much on the offensive line. Like I mentioned, Riley Reef, and then they re-signed Quentin Spain. Are they that much better because they lost Carl Lawson, they lost William Jackson III as well? How improved is this roster, you think, right now after what they did in free agency?
They lost a couple of really good players, but they added, I think, or re-signed 1, 5, 6, 7, 8 players. So they added, at least depth. Not a lot of just name recognition. I think Trey Hendrickson's a name guy. I think Eli Apple's a name guy. Chibodi Awusi is a name guy. Von Bell's a name guy. They had a couple defensive tackles. I mean, they undoubtedly made a commitment to their defense and the money that they spent, and the guaranteed money, especially that they spent. I think it remains to be seen how much better they will be. I can tell you this: if they're better on offense, that will improve their defense as well. So, I know that early they'll focus on offensive talent in the draft, and then we'll see what they pick up defensively. I think, as you said, if they go with Chase, then that next pick has got to be an offensive tackle. And maybe they do something to move up to get a guy. If there's a guy sitting there that they like, that they value, then there's a chance they try to put a package and move up. Not that they've been an aggressive team in trading and things like that. But, after what they did in free agency, maybe it's a new Cincinnati Bengals attitude towards aggressiveness.
I know fans would certainly like that. Jim, as always, appreciate the time, and I look forward to talking to you again before the draft.
Oh, my pleasure. It was great. Thank you.